My wife told me. I've met someone else, and I need space. I answered, I hope he gives you the peace you're looking for. Then I focused on finishing my degree, relocated to a new city, and let my quiet absence become the closure she never saw coming. My name is Daniel. I am 34 years old, and I work full-time as a mechanical engineering technician while finishing the last year of my bachelor's degree at night. I live in a mid-sized city in the Midwest where most of my days are structured around work, classes, and the gym. I am not flashy. I keep a steady routine, and I usually think before I react. My wife, Lauren, is 31. We have been married for 5 years and together for almost 8. We rent a townhouse together on the edge of downtown. Both of our names are on the lease. We split rent, although I cover most of the utilities and insurance because I earn more. She works in marketing for a local lifestyle brand and has a much more social schedule than I do. Until about 3 months ago, I thought our biggest issue was that we were growing in different directions. She wanted more travel, more dinners out, more experiences. I wanted to finish school, increase my income, and then expand our options from a stable foundation. I believed that was temporary tension, not a structural problem. The shift happened on a Tuesday night. I had just gotten home from campus around 9 p.m., and she was sitting at the kitchen island with a glass of wine, still in her work clothes, but clearly waiting for me. Her expression was already defensive before I even put my bag down. She said she had met someone else. Not physically cheated, according to her, but emotionally connected. She said she felt seen. She said she felt alive. She said she needed space to figure out what she wanted because our life felt predictable and small. The way she delivered it was almost irritated, like my stability was an inconvenience. I did not raise my voice. I asked how long this had been developing. She rolled her eyes and said it did not matter because nothing had technically happened. Then she added that I had been distant anyway, buried in textbooks and spreadsheets. I told her I hoped the other guy gave her the peace she was looking for. She blinked at me like that was not the reaction she expected. That was the moment something in me went quiet. Not angry, not heartbroken in a dramatic way, just clear. For context, this was not a sudden personality change. Lauren had been different for a while, more guarded with her phone, more critical of my schedule. Small comments that sounded harmless but carried an edge. You never have time for anything spontaneous anymore. You are always tired. You used to be more fun. I did not dismiss those comments. I explained my timeline clearly. I had 2 semesters left. Once I finished, my income would increase significantly. The grind was temporary. I asked her directly if she felt neglected. She said no at the time. Said she understood. Said she was proud of me. So when she sat there that Tuesday and told me she had met someone who made her feel alive, it was not just about attraction. It was about comparison. And she made that clear. He is ambitious in a different way, she said. He actually enjoys life. He does not treat every year like a waiting room. That was the tone. Not remorse. Not confusion. Almost justification. I asked the obvious question. Do you want a divorce? She exhaled loudly like I was being dramatic. I said I need space. Why do you always jump to extremes? This is why I cannot talk to you. Everything has to be logical and final. I told her I was not jumping. I was clarifying. Space inside a marriage usually means one of 2 things: repair or exit. I wanted to know which direction she was leaning. She stood up and said she did not know yet, that she needed time to explore her feelings, that I should be mature enough to give her that without turning it into a legal threat. Explore her feelings. That was the phrase. I asked if she planned to continue seeing him while she explored. She hesitated for half a second. That half second was enough. She said she did not want to feel controlled. She said if I trusted her, I would let her figure it out without interrogating her. That was the moment I realized this was not confusion. It was a branch swing. She wanted the security of our lease, our shared bills, my consistency, while she tested whether this new guy offered something better. I did not argue. I did not beg. I simply said I would not participate in that arrangement. She called me cold. She said this was exactly why she felt disconnected, that I shut down instead of fighting for her. What she meant was I was not competing. After that conversation, I did not negotiate. I did not suggest counseling. I did not propose a cooling-off period. I went to bed in the guest room, set my alarm for 6 a.m., and started acting the next day. While she was at work, I called in sick to my job for the first time in 2 years. Then I opened my laptop and searched for short-term rentals near campus and my office. By noon, I had scheduled 2 viewings. By 4 p.m., I signed a 6-month lease on a 1-bedroom apartment 15 minutes away. It was not glamorous. 3rd floor walk-up, basic appliances, neutral walls, But it was clean, available immediately, and within my budget without strain. I paid the deposit on the spot. On the drive back to the townhouse, I called a moving company and booked them for the following morning. Not a full-service crew, just 2 guys in a truck for 3 hours. Enough to move my desk, my clothes, my books, and the few pieces of furniture I had purchased myself before we got married. When Lauren got home that evening, I was sitting at the dining table with a folder. She dropped her purse and immediately noticed something was different. My tone, probably. "What did you do?" she asked. I told her I signed a lease. "I am moving out tomorrow morning." She stared at me like I had spoken in another language. "You are not serious." I told her I was. I explained the lease terms. I told her I would continue paying my half of the current rent until the lease here expired or until she found a roommate to replace my portion. I said I would not leave her financially exposed. She laughed, but it was sharp. "This is insane." I said I need space, not abandonment. I answered evenly. Space from a marriage does not look like sleepovers with another man while your husband waits in the next room. Her face hardened. "You are being dramatic and insecure." "No," I said. "I am being decisive." She started pacing, asking where I would go, asking how I could make such a huge decision in less than 24 hours. I told her it was not less than 24 hours. It was the moment she said she needed to explore another connection while keeping this one intact. I was not going to compete for my own wife. The next morning at 9 a.m., the movers arrived. The movers were efficient. 2 guys in their 20s who did not ask questions. They wrapped my desk, stacked my boxes of textbooks, and carried out the mattress I had bought before we got married. Lauren stood in the kitchen the entire time, arms folded, watching like this was some kind of performance. "You are really going through with this," she said when they carried out the last box. "Yes." She tried a different tone then. Softer. "You do not have to prove a point. We could talk about this like adults." I told her I had talked. The night before, I had listened. I had asked clear questions. Her answer was that she needed freedom to explore while keeping the marriage structurally intact. I was not interested in being structural support for my own replacement. She accused me of twisting her words. Said she never said replacement. I reminded her that emotional exclusivity is part of marriage. If that is removed, the contract changes whether paperwork does or not. She scoffed at the word contract. Said I always reduce everything to systems and logic. That love is messy and complicated and requires patience. I told her patience applies to problems inside the marriage, not additions outside of it. By noon, the townhouse looked different. My desk was gone. My clothes were gone. The bookshelf I had built with my dad years ago was gone. The space felt lighter. Not emotionally, logistically. Before I left, I walked her through the financial breakdown. I would continue paying half the rent until the lease ended in 4 months. Utilities would remain split. I emailed her the updated spreadsheet showing the automatic transfers. She looked offended that I had prepared documentation. "You already had this planned." "No," I said. "I am just organized." When I picked up my car keys, she finally asked the question that mattered. "So what is this? A trial separation?" "No." "Then what?" I paused, not for effect, but for precision. "This is me removing myself from a situation where I am being treated as an option." She stared at me like she was waiting for anger, for a speech, for some emotional eruption that would validate her narrative that I was cold and extreme. Instead, I wished her well. I said I hope he gives you the peace you were looking for. Then I walked out. That night, in my new apartment surrounded by unopened boxes, I did not text her. I did not check her social media. I did not call mutual friends. I opened my laptop and finished a lab report that was due at midnight. Because if my life was going to change, it was going to move forward, not sideways. The first week in the new apartment was quiet. Not dramatic. Not cinematic. Just structured. I set up my desk the first night. Internet installed the next morning. By day 3, the place looked intentional instead of temporary. I kept my routine exactly the same. Work, gym, classes, study. Lauren texted on day 2. "This feels extreme. We could have handled this differently." I responded once. "We did handle it. This is the result." She did not reply for several hours. Then she sent a longer message. She said she never meant for me to leave. She said she thought I would fight harder. That my willingness to walk away proved I did not value her enough. That part was interesting. I told her fighting for someone and competing with someone are not the same thing. I do the first. I do not do the second. Over the next week, her messages shifted tone. First frustration, then defensiveness, then subtle blame. "You always choose work over us." You made me feel lonely. If you had been more present, none of this would have happened. I did not argue point by point. I responded once more and kept it contained. If you felt lonely, you could have addressed that directly. Introducing a third person was your choice. I responded to that choice. After that, I limited communication strictly to logistics, lease payments, mail forwarding, utilities. A mutual friend texted me around the second weekend, asked if everything was okay. Apparently, Lauren had told people we were taking space because I was overwhelmed with school. I did not correct the narrative publicly. I simply said we are handling it privately. By week 3, something else happened. She stopped texting. Not completely, but the emotional messages stopped. No more accusations. No more attempts to provoke a reaction. Instead, I heard from someone else that she had been posting more. Nights out, wine bars, group dinners, subtle photos with a man whose face was always half cropped out. I did not check for myself. I did not need confirmation. Meanwhile, I increased my study hours, applied for 2 internship opportunities connected to my degree, updated my resume, scheduled meetings with professors about graduate programs in other cities. The quiet did something unexpected. It sharpened my focus. I was not reacting to her anymore. I was building. About a month after I moved out, she finally called instead of texting. I let it ring once before answering. Her voice sounded different, less sharp, more measured. She asked if we could meet and talk in person. Not about the lease. About us. When she called and asked to meet, I did not agree immediately. I asked what the purpose was. She said she wanted clarity, that things felt unresolved, that the distance had made her realize she might have overreacted. Might have. I told her clarity does not require a coffee shop. There was a pause on the line. Then she said she had stopped seeing him, that it had not turned into what she thought it would, that he was exciting but inconsistent, that he did not show up the way she expected. I listened without interrupting. Then she said something that confirmed my decision had been correct. I did not think you would actually leave. That was the core of it. She thought I would posture, argue, compete, stay. I told her I did not leave to manipulate her. I left because the structure had already shifted. She asked if there was a path back. I answered honestly. There might have been before you tested the alternative while still married to me. After that, trust changes shape. She tried one more angle. Said marriage is not about perfection. That people make mistakes. That we owed it to 5 years to try. I told her I respect effort inside commitment. I do not respect effort after exit strategies have been explored. She grew frustrated again. Accused me of acting superior, of pretending I was above normal human emotions. I told her this was not about superiority. It was about standards. The conversation circled for 20 minutes. Same points. Same attempts to reposition what she had done as confusion instead of choice. Finally, I ended it cleanly. I said I am filing for divorce next week. You will receive the paperwork through an attorney. I will continue honoring the lease terms as agreed until it expires. After that, our financial ties end. She went quiet. Then her voice shifted from defensive to sharp. So that is it. You just erased me. I answered carefully. No. You stepped out. I stepped forward. She said I would regret being this rigid. I told her maybe, but I will not regret protecting my self-respect. When I hung up, I sat there for a full minute. Then I blocked her number. Not out of anger. Out of completion. I also unfollowed and removed her from every social platform. Not because I needed silence from the world. Because I needed no open doors. The next morning, I contacted an attorney recommended by a colleague. Consultation scheduled for Friday. There is a difference between reacting emotionally and making a decision once. I had made mine. Filing was procedural. No drama. No dramatic courthouse scene. I met with the attorney that Friday. Brought documentation. Lease agreement. Bank statements. Screenshots of our financial transfers. No evidence of infidelity was required because we live in a no-fault state. That simplified things. We had no kids, no joint property, just shared furniture and a lease with 4 months remaining. The paperwork was drafted within a week. She received it through certified mail. She called from an unknown number that evening. I let it go to voicemail. Her message was short. Angry. You really did this. Over one mistake. I did not respond. I blocked the new number as well. What happened next was predictable, but still instructive. She started reaching out through mutual friends. Apparently, she had not told people the full story. The version circulating was that I had become emotionally unavailable because of school, moved out impulsively, and blindsided her with divorce papers. One friend asked directly if there had been someone else. I answered calmly. She told me she needed space to explore another connection. I removed myself from the equation. That is the timeline. I did not embellish. I did not campaign. The interesting shift happened around month 2. I was offered a paid internship tied to my degree in a larger city 3 hours away. It would transition into a full-time role once I graduated. The salary was higher than what I was currently making, even before finishing school. I accepted. That meant relocation at the end of the semester. I notified the leasing office that I would not be renewing under any circumstances. I continued paying my portion through the final month, as agreed. Lauren attempted one last reach out through email. She wrote that she had made a mistake, that the other guy had disappeared once things became complicated, that she missed stability, that she missed me. Missed stability. That phrase stood out. I replied once, "I hope you find what you are actually looking for." Then I archived the thread. The day I loaded my car to move cities, I did not feel victorious. I felt focused. New job. Degree completed in 3 months. New apartment already secured. Her quiet absence from my life had become something she probably did not anticipate. Final. After I blocked her, that was it. No late-night calls. No emotional essays. No therapy updates. I closed every direct channel. Phone. Social media. Messaging apps. If she wanted to communicate, it would have to go through attorneys, and there was nothing left to negotiate. The divorce moved forward quietly. Because we had no shared assets and no children, the process was mostly paperwork. My attorney handled service through formal channels. She signed. I signed. Deadlines passed. It was administrative, not theatrical. A mutual friend reached out once about a month later. Not on her behalf. Just curiosity. He asked if I was really moving cities or if that was just a temporary thing. I told him it was permanent. He hesitated and then said she did not expect you to go that far. That sentence confirmed something important. She had expected friction, debate, a period of limbo where I hovered nearby while she figured herself out. She did not expect disappearance. By the time the lease on the townhouse ended, I had already been in the new city for weeks. I transferred my final rent payment as agreed. Sent confirmation to the leasing office. Closed that chapter cleanly. There was no final meeting to exchange belongings. Anything that mattered to me had already been moved the morning after I signed the new lease. Anything left behind was replaceable. The divorce was finalized 6 months after she said she needed space. I did not attend the hearing in person. My attorney handled it. When the confirmation email came through, I read it once and archived it. No ceremony, no ritual, just a legal end to something that had already ended the moment she asked for freedom inside the marriage. My new job transitioned from internship to full-time earlier than expected. The salary bump was significant, more than I had projected when I started school years ago. I signed a 12-month lease in the new city, upgraded to a slightly better apartment. Still simple, still intentional. And here's the part that matters. I never reached out, not to check if she regretted it, not to confirm if the other guy stayed or left, not to prove anything. My quiet absence was not a tactic. It was a boundary maintained consistently. People assume closure requires conversation. Sometimes closure is the door closing and never reopening. About 9 months after I moved, I ran into someone from our old circle at a conference tied to my industry. Different city, different context, same familiar face. He looked surprised to see me, asked how I was doing. I told him the truth. Good. Busy. Settled. There was an awkward pause before he mentioned her. Apparently, she had moved out of the townhouse shortly after the lease ended. Took a smaller place closer to downtown. The guy she had been seeing did not last more than a few months. According to him, he was great at attention, not great at consistency. None of that surprised me. What did stand out was something else he said. She thought you would come back once you cooled off. That narrative again. That my decisiveness was temporary. That my absence was emotional, not structural. He also mentioned that she had started dating again. Quickly. A couple of short relationships. Nothing stable. I did not feel satisfaction hearing that. Just confirmation. When someone is chasing the feeling of being seen instead of building something durable, they often confuse novelty with depth. After the conference, I walked back to my hotel and thought about the timeline. One sentence at the kitchen island. One decision the next morning. One lease signed within 24 hours. There was no revenge. No public argument. No dramatic social media statement. Just movement. In the years since that Tuesday night, I had finished my degree, secured a better job, relocated to a stronger market, increased my income, expanded my professional network, built a new routine. I did not do those things to prove a point to her. I did them because once the distraction was removed, the path was clear. I dated casually for a while. Slowly. Intentionally. No rush to replace. No rush to declare anything permanent. One thing changed permanently, though. If someone tells me they need space to evaluate alternatives, I no longer negotiate. Space is not a threat. It is a decision. And I respond to decisions with action. It has been just over a year now. The divorce is finalized. The lease is long expired. The townhouse is someone else's address. Her number has remained blocked the entire time. There was no final apology. No dramatic attempt to win me back. No public fallout. Just silence. And that silence did something I do not think she anticipated. It forced her to sit with the reality that I did not react emotionally. I recalibrated structurally. A few months ago, I heard through that same mutual contact that she mentioned me in conversation. Not angrily. Not bitterly. Just puzzled. She said she never saw it coming. That part makes sense. From her perspective, I was predictable. Stable. Routine-driven. The kind of man who would tolerate discomfort for the sake of long-term plans. What she misread was the difference between patience and passivity. I am patient with growth. I am not passive with disrespect. When she said she needed space to explore another connection, she assumed I would argue, compete, negotiate, stay nearby as a backup. Instead, I removed myself the next day, finished my degree, relocated, built a new life without commentary. No revenge post. No cryptic updates. No public spiral. Just absence. The quiet kind. And here is the part one would tell anyone reading this. You do not need to destroy someone to protect yourself. You do not need to scream to make a point. Sometimes the most definitive response is simple alignment. She wanted space. I gave it fully. She wanted to feel alive. I chose to feel steady. And when the paperwork was signed and my life continued forward without interruption, that became the closure she never saw coming. Not because I punished her, because I left cleanly.